Hello, everyone out there in the world. It is our monthly community event for UBI4ME. We have Marcel
Hiya.
and my name is Daniela. Hello. We are here to talk about universal basic income and what we think is going to happen over the next few years 10, 15, 20, and beyond. Maybe we should start with a brief summary of universal basic income, just so that we are all on the same page. So, universal basic income is a repetitive income, money that you receive in your bank account that is paid by the government and that is going to cover your basic needs. So I'm not expecting anyone being able to fly off to Hawaii, for example, unless that's where you live and therefore it's easier to get to. But if you're anywhere else, no, that would not be covered. Chances are it will cover your food, your clothing, your housing, the basics, anything you need to have a good life. Not a great life, but a good life. And that makes you go through life as a decent human being. Universal because it is for everyone, not for the household. Most certainly not. It is per person because every individual person has the same value and worth, and therefore every individual person should be receiving it. And when I say person, I do include children here. Children cost money, and that cost needs to be covered. Anyone who ever raised a child on their own, they know that children are expensive. They may be small, but not cheap. So they also need to receive that income. What else? So we have covered the universal. It's everyone basic to have a good life, not a great life necessarily, but a good life that covers all your basic needs. And it's income, meaning it gets into your bank account and you can do with it whatever you want. Another addition to UBI is on the U. So I'm saying and using it as universal basic income to highlight the point that everyone is receiving it. But you can also stand for unconditional. And that is really important as well because unconditional means it does not depend on you turning up every week at the job office to make sure you can prove you have applied for jobs. It does mean that you don't have to prove you're disabled and can't work or anything. It does not actually matter who you are or what you do, you simply get it. Everyone gets it. If you're a pensioner, if you're a child, if you're a man, a woman, if you're not yet decided where you want to fall into, or you make up your own category, it does not matter. Every single person receives it.
I think also to add to that, whether you're working or not,
Exactly.
whether you're rich or poor, everybody gets it. There's no conditions on it. It's not just for the unemployed or just for the needy. Everybody gets it, and I think that is one of the key differences. That people struggle with when they're trying to work on what's the difference between the UBI and welfare. I mean, welfare has these conditions associated with it. That only the needy, get it, and also that only the poor get it, and also only the unemployed get it, and that has a stigma attached to it.
Yes.
You have to be poor, needy, and unemployed to get welfare, and it also discourages people, right, from changing their circumstances. That if they find a job, they will lose it. If they get into some money, they will lose it. If they no longer need the money, then they will lose it.
Yes.
And it encourages bad behavior that people continue to find excuses not to find work. And that is where the laziness tag gets associated with it. And I think if we remove that stigma and we remove the conditions and we make it, as you say, unconditional, then everybody will get it, regardless of your situation. And you can then work to improve your situation and not worry about losing it.
Exactly. Exactly. That's where we're at the moment. Sounds fantastic, doesn't it? So why don't we have it yet? I personally, I don't know. The reason why I think it's a good thing is because it makes sure that there is a floor to the income that every single person receives. And that means people can spend money. If people spend money, companies earn money. If companies earn money, then they invest money. And if they invest money, then people get hired, or new things get tried out, or there is more innovation and progress, and everyone benefits. Is my very simplistic worldview. So why don't we have it yet? A lot of people put the question out there, well, we can't afford it because who's going to pay for it? And again, my simplistic worldview suggests that I don't think we can afford not to pay for it. Currently, I've heard some interesting comment the other day on a chat show that in the USA, if all of the outstanding tax debt that the rich people should have been paying already, if all of that were taken in by the government, then that would eradicate poverty in the USA. It's all that. It's just moving money from one person to another, from one company to people. That's all it is. It's a little, in a simplistic worldview, there is more to it. And just as a side note, I understand that UBI isn't going to fix everything. For example, if you have additional needs, then there will be additional help that needs to be provided. For example, wheelchairs, they cost money. And I'm very, very much aware of that. So there are additional things that will be provided, not only an income that would give an able-bodied person a good life. So I'm aware of that. Just want to throw that in.
I think it's important to highlight that one of the things UBI will replace is the welfare system. In other words, there won't be a separate welfare system because everyone will be receiving the UBI, and we've discussed that already. But the second one is the state pension, where a set group of people who are above a certain age and have certain needs receive a state pension. And the UBI will replace that as well, because they will be receiving an income from the state, right, which will provide them with their basic needs. The same thing that a state pension is to cover. So a lot of the funding that goes towards welfare, in fact, all the funding that goes towards welfare and state pensions will be diverted into the UBI. So we don't have to find additional funding for those aspects of it. It is the other side of things, all the people that already have jobs and don't receive welfare, or a pension, that will be receiving the UBI. And I think there's the aspect of taxing people that do work more, right, to offset the UBI they will be receiving. And that is especially the case with rich people, where you tax them enough additionally, right, to offset what they would be receiving from a UBI. So it's not like everyone gets a bonus check, because you're basically if you're working, you will get that tax back. But only if you're working above a certain income. Again, we don't want to discourage people from finding work and suddenly having all that money being taxed back straight away. But it is finding that balance and finding the income tax rates that will offset that. So again, we don't have to find money to pay everyone a UBI. When people calculate it, it works out to trillions of dollars in the US, for example. But we do have to. That needs to come in from taxing either rich people more or corporations more. And I think that's that calculation is the deciding factor as to who's going to pay for and how it's going to be paid for. But there's a lot of money that already exists that will cover a lot of it to start with.
Yes, I completely agree. And sometimes I get stuck on the should we tax companies or rich people more, given that a lot of rich people or wealthy people have their money in companies. Now, first of all, my difference between rich and wealthy is something I heard a while ago, and that is a rich person is who at the end of the month gets a really big paycheck, like really big. The wealthy person is the person who writes the check. That's the difference, in my opinion, and I like that definition because it's nice and simple. So wealthy people often put the money not only into a savings account, but into assets, meaning ownership shares in companies where they earn more income. So by taxing companies more, there's less money left to share out with the stakeholders, and therefore rich people would be earning less on that. That is one option of taxing. There are other options. For example, currently a lot of countries, not all of the countries on this planet, but a lot of countries do educate the children that grow up in that country more or less for free up to a certain age. Above that, when I was younger, a lot of it was for free. Nowadays, people pay for it. Um, all of that is for free for companies. They take advantage of smart people, educated people, without having to pay for it. Why? So there could be a mechanism for companies to chip in, for example, to get text to support education and provide them with the workforce they need. Another thing that I'm a fan of, and please hear me out until the end. I'm a big fan of AI. I'm a big fan of robotics. I'm a big fan of marrying those two up. I'm a big fan of progress. Currently, I'm more worried about AI and what it can do, thinking about Elon Musk's Grok, for example, and calling itself Mecha Hitler. But overall, in the long run, I believe AI, like anything else, like the washing machine or the internet, AI can be used as a tool for good. And I personally, I'm in favor of progress. I like getting into a car. I like trains and public transport. I like having heating in my house and not having to go out and chop down a tree to have fire in my little hut. I like progress and I want it to continue. Now, part of this progress that we're seeing right now is that AI and robotics together are taking jobs away. Historically and up to now, it was heavily on the blue collar manual labor side of things. But right now, it has started to also take up white collar workers, meaning people who have a nice cushy office job. A lot of that is being automated. Companies hire fewer people, and in addition to hiring fewer people, some companies have started laying people off. So far, the numbers aren't all that great or large. A few hundred here, a few hundred there, 1,000 here, 1,000 there. And then you start noticing some of the tech companies, or companies associated with technology services. For example, Tata Consulting in India are going to be laying off 12,000 people globally. That's a lot of people. And it's not on, sorry.
I think what's more important than individual job losses from various companies. I know that, Microsoft and various US tech companies are getting record earnings and massive share price increases because they've announced that they're going to be reducing their staff and replacing them with AI. So that's obviously going to happen. I think the bigger issue is the fact that when all these jobs, the blue collar work jobs, and particularly drivers still account for a huge percentage of the US workforce. And self-driving cars, self-driving trucks, everybody was talking about it 5 years ago, and it was all going to come, and what was going to happen to all those people. They were going to lose their jobs because of self-driving cars and self-driving trucks, who rely on basically their income from driving. They were told that, they need to get a tech job, they need to learn how to program. But those are the jobs that we are now seeing, right, being reduced by the big tech companies. Right? So the jobs that the people were supposed to train for, right, are being replaced by AI. The next round of automation and robotics is the AI, which is replacing the technical jobs. Yes, there's still going to be some ultra skilled technical jobs that the AI is not going to be doing yet, and they're still hiring those kind of people. But all those programming jobs that people were touting as, that's what people will have to move into, right, are not there. So even before the self-driving cars have hit the road, and even before the driving trucks have hit the road, and even before all those people lost their jobs, right?
Yes.
But the real issue now is those jobs aren't there anymore. So what will they be doing? It's not the fact that the white collar jobs are losing so much. It's the fact that that's what people were being told they would need to be doing. They would need to be upskilling, and this was the whole thing about technological progress. Is that as robots and but it's those jobs that are being replaced, and no one is talking about what a programmer is supposed to go and do now when they lose their job. When anybody can use an AI to do the programming that those programmers are going to do. Particularly junior programmers, particularly entry-level programmers. Those jobs aren't going to be there. So what will they be doing instead? In addition to all the people that were told that that's what they would need to be doing and changing it. And even if there is something that comes up, who's to say that within, and this is literally within 5 years, right, that those jobs also won't be replaced by some form of AI, some form of robotics, some intelligence that is there to be. Because it's not like everyone can become an artist or an author, because AI has shown that they are better authors, they are better artists, and now more recently, better movie makers. People literally type in the description and a movie is getting generated. And it's not like we can then try and rely on that. Not that anybody would be able to survive, because if you've got 1 billion people all trying to make money writing books, you just go and speak to any author and find out how hard it is to make money as an author today. Never mind trying to fight against the AI authors that are out there writing and competing with you and getting better all the time. We're not going to be able to outcompete the technology. The technology will outcompete us, no matter what task we eventually say, this is what people will need to do. And I think that's the key thing, is that people will be unemployable. And people have been talking about that. It's not what jobs will be protected, there will be too many people, right, without a skill, right, not knowing what skill to develop, right, that will not have an alternative to go to, because the alternatives to go to are being automated.
Yes, and I'm sure some of you out there think, oh no, I'm sure there are people-based, relationship-based jobs out there, and it's like, really? Studies have shown that a lot of people prefer AI therapy, or therapy with an AI therapist, because they are less judgmental than humans, as one example. And my thought generally is that some countries are advertising for elder care, because even though it is being automated as well, and a lot of it has been moved over to machines, there's still currently a lot of manual labor needed. And it's like, no, that's not for me. It's like, could I learn the skill? Maybe. Would I want to? No. Hell no. And I'm not entirely sure that somebody who's driving a truck every single day and that's what they enjoy, that they will be the perfect person to take care of an elderly person. I don't know. That I'm sure there are different people out there. I don't want to stereotype right now. I've worked in the IT industry. I've met a fair amount of developers myself. Not everyone is wanting to change their career. Some people have found a calling, and that's what they want to do. It's just there isn't a way of making a living of it anymore.
Mention that as well, that the drivers being told they need to learn how to program, whether they want to or can is a separate discussion. The fact that those jobs won't exist anyway. And even the social work that you're talking about now, even if it is about going to speak to people and has an issue with there being a shortage of people looking after the elderly, because of the negative population growth and the increasing elderly growth. But there's still not it's not what everybody can do, even if it was a job. And I think this insistence that everybody needs to find another job, right, to find an income, right, to find money to feed themselves, without any assistance, without any form of UBI, and I think that's what we're talking about here, is the UBI, is what the world is going to face over the next 5, maybe 10 years. But I think within the next 5 years, we're going to have a huge impact of people not having a job to go to. There's not even something you can train to do, right? That an AI is going to be able to do better. Even if you wanted to do that job, to be able to compete against the AI, it's going to be tough. We've talked about AI being a better therapist. We talked about AI being a better, artist or author. We've talked about AI being a better teacher. Being able to adjust and adapt to people learning. We look at language training, for example. The AI that's there now. Being able to correct and I spoke to someone the other day that has learned Spanish, right, from Duolingo, which is amazing as it is, but also with using ChatGPT. So learned the basics using Duolingo and then used ChatGPT to chat with. And this person's Spanish was, as good as mine. Not that my Spanish is very good, but he's been doing it for 2 years just with Duolingo and ChatGPT. And he uses ChatGPT to explain grammar issues. He uses ChatGPT to correct his pronunciation. He uses ChatGPT for everything, right? Beyond that certain level, beyond that initial point. And I think that's goes to show that even teaching skills like that, right, are being done better now with AI. And that's the current AI. That's the current AI with all the problems that we know about. The ones that are convincing people to commit suicide, convincing people to do things, and being right-wing extremists and mega Hitlers and things like that. So those things will be addressed the same way the self-driving cars will be addressed. It takes a long time. It's the old 80-20 rule. We've got 80% of the way with self-driving, and the last 20% is going to take 5 times as long. But it will get there, because you only have to teach a self-driving car something once, and it will then be able to improve from there.
Yes. As I said, I'm in favor of progress. I'm in favor of AI and robotics and freeing people up to do whatever they want to do rather than what they're forced to do. And I think the future will be great. I think the future will be that good. And all we have to do is survive until then. And the reason why I use the word survive here is because I'm not entirely sure that it's going to be smooth sailing. I do think there will be some issues along the way. I did read or skim read an article about an interview with a former CEO executive who has been active in the AI space, and he predicts that the next 15 years will be hell. From my understanding right now, not having actually seen the interview, he predicts that within the next 5 years, so between now and 2030, a lot of people will lose their jobs. There won't be any jobs to go to. And that will drive and worsen the current inequality and division within countries, within the globe, and so on. So he's predicting hell. I don't know whether there will be a description in the interview or not. And then he says, well, there is an opportunity, there is a chance from 2040 onwards, once we are through this hellish period, there is a chance that humanity wakes up and moves on with a better outlook, one that's based on compassion, that's based on caring for one another and sharing things as well. So I'm very much interested. Once we get off this call, I will be finding that interview. I will be putting a link down below as well. So if you want to see it, click on it.
Please.
And yes, he thinks there is a real possibility that life will be a lot better from what I read, about 2040 onwards, so 15 years from now. Now, who out there is with me to try and make it through together? It's pretty much that. And the reason why I'm wording it this way is because I personally find it hard to keep positive throughout. I know people who are struggling with money and it's heartbreaking. I know people who are in jobs that they really don't like. I know people who are in situations that with a little bit of support would be so much better. I think UBI will be the best thing for the planet. First of all, for people, because each individual person is better, but also for the planet. So everyone who considers themselves on the green side of things, who want to do something about climate change. Well, with the UBI, you will be freed up to actually do something. You will have the time. You will be able to go out there, make those connections, set up your local group, go to university and study whatever needs to be studied to come up with an innovation that will be good and positive in this space. Again, it's, in my opinion, the one step that humanity needs to take to move from where we are now to where we will be. Because progress will happen whether we like it or not. I like it. Not sure I like the state of affairs at this point. I don't like the short term outcomes. I do hope and I will push for positive outcomes in the long run. I'm positive we will get through it. Um, and that's that. That's my opinion. Progress is going to happen. Science to the rescue, and I am confident we will make it through. And if it takes until 2040, then let's get there.
Hopefully we can get there sooner. Hopefully we can get the message out by the UBI. Hopefully we can get more and more political parties talking about it, because they are talking about it. It's not like we're a niche group of people talking about it. Political parties are talking about it, and I think what we need is that more people to ask their representatives to talk about it. More people to get in touch with the government and make sure it's an agenda item. That it's something that people can vote on, and we can move forward from there. And I think that UBI is a great way to get that move beyond the need for people to find work just so they can feed themselves. We are a civilized world. We should be a civilized world. We shouldn't force people to work to feed themselves.
Not anymore. Not anymore. Yes, and possibly for next time more than today. I propose a topic around, well, UBI, does it make sense? Could it ever make sense on a country level versus a global level?
That's
And
good.
yes, the reason why I'm not wanting to hash out what's on top of my head, because that would be too simple. Because again, simplistic worldview, if one country has a UBI, the population has money to spend, given that there are a lot of monopolies from international companies. They will take the profits and the earnings, and due to a lot of smart people working for them, they have tax setups so that the local government doesn't actually earn from the trade that is being made. There are initiatives for global governments to work together. So currently, there's a minimum 15% of sales tax across the globe for large enough companies. Again, there are so many caveats. It's relatively easy to get around that. There are countries that offer lower tax rates and so on. So it's not as clear cut. So if one country institutes a UBI, then maybe they themselves wouldn't benefit from it and therefore slowly but surely run out of money and things like that. So that's why I'm proposing it for next time round, to allow me to have a bit of a look, and I'll take a note of that, of how would that look like if only one country had it. How would it look like if the whole globe would decide that yes, now's the time to globally make it happen? And for all you cynics out there, I used to be one of you. Um, One thing that can change minds is the fact that the ozone layer is healing. So when I grew up, back in the day, there was a big, massive hole in the ozone layer roughly above Australia. And that was, well, it wasn't very good because too much UV came through the hole in the ozone layer, and it was quite detrimental to the environment. What happened is that the whole world, basically, the world governments or the country governments got together, and there was an agreement to stop chemicals being sprayed into the atmosphere. And guess what? It's been 30 years now, give or take, 40 years. And the ozone layer is healing, and some predictions suggest, or some scientific models, not predictions, scientific models suggest that in roughly 2035, it may even be healed. Positive outcomes are possible. As long as everyone works together, mankind can be better off, and that's why I'm really positive about UBI as well, because it can be done, and I guess it will be done. It's just a way of finding a path from here to there. So anyone out there, if you have an idea of how to get from here to there, if you have plans or numbers or work through an example, do give us a shout or just send an email, whichever you prefer. Share your thoughts, share your ideas, and we'll talk about them.
Sounds good.
That's it from me.
That's good discussion again. I look forward to the next one, discussing, national versus global UBI and what's realistic, pros and cons. Should be a good topic.
Yes. Good. Then thanks everyone out there for listening, watching. Join us next time if you have time. Send in questions, comments, suggestions, especially the suggestions in terms of how to get from here to there, because I understand it's easy to talk about it without actually being involved in the actual number crunching. So do come up with your ideas and suggestions, because otherwise I will. And with that, I see you next time, first Tuesday in September. And I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful summer in the Northern Hemisphere and winter in the Southern Hemisphere. Until next time, bye-bye.
Bye.